Hey everyone, hello and welcome, Tony Bing here. For this test centre video I'll be having a look at Juggernaut. Now he really is a hero stroke villain that I don't have a lot of experience with because I'm not a huge fan of movement builds myself, and his kind of toe-to-toe melee build doesn't work that great on live. It looks like some changes here maybe could make it possible, which would be fantastic. I'm hoping they do because I like the idea of this big huge hulking guy just going toe-to-toe and punching as opposed to running about and just doing wrestling moves every 3 seconds as he appears to do on live. This video, the reason I'm doing them is the video's been requested by Gloomfall on Reddit, so if there is any questions I will hopefully have Gloomfall answering in the comments. I don't know if he's registered on YouTube, but if you're not Gloomfall, get registered, get subscribed to me and get answering any questions in the comments for me, alright? So let's look at the first section anyway, which is Mystical Powerhouse. Now for this particular section, as far as I can tell, none of these skills have actually changed here, but when we come to the talents things do change. But for this, as I say, I don't believe anything has changed. If it has, let me know in the comments. But we'll run through the tooltips very quickly for the reason that I don't believe anything's changed. So we have Rope-a-Dope first, which is your basic melee attack, and that restores momentum as you're using it. And then we have Lariat, which will be your dash. Now you actually get 4 charges of this and the cooldown's 2 seconds. Now actually talking about that, I will show you as well Stride, because a lot of people are concerned over movement characters and the movement changing. And let me show you Stride. It's got half a second charge up here. There we go. So that's really quite responsive and nice. Now it couldn't be used, half a second couldn't be used on all characters, because then essentially people would just use the half a second charge up to kind of preempt tells from enemies and just dash out the range of them the way they do now with unlimited dashes. But on characters like Juggernaut, it is nice that he feels a bit more responsive. Let's do it once more. There we go. And then we've also got these lariats. We'll quickly use them, and then you'll see already they're charging way up. So you still, if you wanted, still a fair bit of movement on him, there really is. But let's go back to the skills now. So we looked at these two, and the third skill we're looking at is Barroom Brawl. So this is his basic melee attack, and with this it does more damage based on how much momentum you actually have. And then you get Crimson Force Field. Now it looks like this is affected by power duration. The reason why I'm wearing the Essence of Jinn and the Coat of Skull and also the Doom medallion on him, I'll activate it so you can see it. It says it's 5 seconds with a cooldown of 30, but if I activate it, we'll see the tooltip gets down to about 23 seconds before it goes away. There we go, that was just on 22 even. I don't know if it'd be worthwhile speccing towards that really at the end of the day, but it's interesting. It might even be an oversight. Who knows, on the next build it might say that you can no longer affected by power duration there. But the next skill we've got is Enter the Fray. So if you're below 30% momentum, this will help you actually restore momentum, and it doesn't decay for 4 seconds. And then we have Big Headbutt, which is your melee bleeding move. And then finally for this tree we have Round of Applause. So with this it's your vulnerability, and you spend 30% of your maximum momentum to increase damage by 4% per 10 momentum spent, and double the duration of the area of effect. So simple enough there. Let's look at the next section, which is Unstoppable. So this tree Unstoppable really focuses on his kind of steroid buffs and also his signature. So first off we've got Earthquake, which is a melee area attack, and that spends 50% of your maximum momentum to increase damage by how much momentum you actually have there. And then you have the old trusty Bed, Big Elbow Drop. That's kind of the staple of so many Juggernaut builds on live there, and that just operates the same. And then we have Sunday Punch here. This can only be used while you're above 50% maximum momentum. And then you have Wrath of Sitarak, so it's physical damage, critical hit chance 35%, it restores 100% momentum, and it's got a cooldown of 30 seconds. And then the kind of opposite side of that on live, I think they're mutually exclusive, but unless you select a talent or not, you get Scion of Sitarak. So with this its base damage goes up, critical hit chance, critical hit damage, and it restores momentum over a period of time, 80 seconds over 30 seconds. And then you've got Devastating Charge. This is your kind of charge up move that you see Juggernaut do quite often on live, the one that always one shots you or your team up. And then finally you've got Unstoppable Charge, which is his signature move. So it's all very simple. It doesn't look like it's a great amount of skills in there, but then again he is a guy that just kind of jumps about and punches people. But let's look at the talents. Things definitely do get a bit more interesting, and It looks like potentially we can maybe get a melee build out of this now, so let's have a look at them anyway. So let's look at the talents and traits now. Now his offensive trait, not surprisingly, is called Unstoppable, and with this you gain 2% base damage of your tenacity. This has changed on live, I believe. It used to be kind of tenacity was converted into a percentage of crit rating, so a bit of a pity to see that change to base damage, because crit rating is much kind of more valued there. But the archetype is Champion, and you'll be gaining extra kind of damage from durability or speed attributes. For the defensive attribute we have Indomitable, which gives you maximum health. The archetype is Tough, so you're gaining a multiplier from defense and deflect, and you've got your 8% damage reduction there, of course. Now for these resources, we all know what his resource is. It's momentum, and you gain it while moving or using movement powers, and you use momentum to augment certain powers as well. So the first line we're looking at for the talents here, we've got Protection of Sitarak. So you regenerate 100% of your maximum health and momentum while you're defeated. So once every 5 minutes, Juggernaut does know what it means to be invincible, which is fantastic at last. Also you have Crimson Force Field applies Quickened to all allies. Cooldown comes down by 5 seconds, and then it's showing you on the tooltip what the Quickened effect actually adds as well there. So next up we've got the Invulnerable Juggernaut, and that's when you spend 100% of your maximum momentum on a power, restore 20% of your maximum health, and the passive effect is defense rating multiplier, deflect rating multiplier, and maximum health as well there. And then finally in this tree we've got Full Force Hand Clap. So Round of Applause now spends all available momentum to deal additional damage. If Round of Applause spends 100% of your maximum momentum, enemies affected deal 25% less damage to Juggernaut. That's quite interesting there. So for line number 2 we have Mix It Up. Now with this, Sunday Punch now spends all available momentum to deal additional damage. Powers that can spend all momentum have a 15-second cooldown, and when you spend all your momentum on a power, reset the cooldowns of other powers that can spend all momentum. Now that doesn't mean a lot to me, other than the fact that I said momentum a lot of times, but if you're a Juggernaut player, I'm sure that tooltip will make a lot more sense to you than it did to me there. So next up we have People's Elbow. So with this, Big Elbow Drop, or Bed as it's known, damage is increased an additional 2% for how much momentum you have there. So that's the same as live really, and you've got a 10% movement power damage buff as well. And then you have Carried Momentum. So with this, Sunday Punches damage is actually increased an additional amount based on your momentum, and it no longer spends momentum but it retains its damage bonus as if it did. So that's quite nice and really could help out a melee build. Now for the third line we have Invoke Sitarak. So Wrath of Sitarak and Sign of Sitarak, that's these two kind of almost steroids here. They share their cooldown, and the actual cooldown on it goes down by 10 seconds. Critical hit chance and Wrath of Sitarak's 100%, and Scion gives you momentum spending powers always critically hit there. And the second talent in this line is Embrace Sitarak. So when you activate Wrath of Sitarak, Unstoppable Charge, Sign of Sitarak is automatically activated while Sign of Sitarak is active. Your maximum momentum is increased by 1000, which is a huge amount. And then finally in this particular line we have Renounce Sitarak. So Sign of Sitarak cannot be activated, Wrath of Sitarak cannot be activated, but you gain a flat 10% damage, 10% damage absorbed, and critical hit chance of 10%, and 250 momentum there. Now for the fourth line we have Ceaseless Momentum. So momentum generation from any source other than talents are disabled, however you gain 20% of your max momentum per second. So let's activate that so you can see it. There we go. That's probably going to lead to some quite interesting options. I think this is probably going to be, correct me if I'm wrong, but surely this is going to be the kind of talent that helps you do the melee build, because you're not running about, you're toe to toe in their face, and this will keep your momentum up for your attacks. So potentially that's something I'd be using there. Now next up you've got Crushing Headbutt. So Big Headbutt always deals a brutal strike if used at maximum momentum, and Barroom Brawling does extra damage based on momentum there. Extra crit hit chance, sorry, based on momentum rather than damage. And then the final talent in this line is Get Out of My Way. So Devastating Charge instantly defeats non-boss enemies and prevents momentum from decaying for 4 seconds, and Devastating Charge does an extra 25% damage there. And for the last line, we've got nothing can stop the Juggernaut. This line makes things really quite interesting. So you've got nothing can stop the Juggernaut, can only be used while at maximum momentum and cost momentum while active, and nothing can stop the Juggernaut's cooldown is removed. So if we actually pair this along with this, and then we activate this here, you've essentially, I don't know how good the damage would be, but you've essentially got his signature going off all the time there. As I say, I really don't know. I imagine the damage is probably quite weak, but for people that want to just run about crazy in Midtown as Juggernaut, and then you can now do it holding down one button and using 2 talents. Probably a bit boring, but hey, the option's there anyway. That's what it's all about, isn't it? All about options, really. So next up in this line we have just keep swinging. So whenever you land a hit with Lariat, the cooldown of unstoppable charge is reduced by 2 seconds. That was unstoppable charges. This is it here, your signature of course. And then Lariat max charges, you gain another 1 there. We'll activate it and see it go up to 5. There we go. So you really could be moving about a lot with the 5 charges, 2-second cooldown. That could really help. Your base damage for movement powers goes up by 10% as well there. And then finally we have one man freight train. So unstoppable charge lasts for half of its normal duration but gains the following effects. So unstoppable charge gains 75% damage, cooldown comes down by 15 per second, and it has a buff effect of adding 40% for melee powers while you're also absorbing damage while you're going toe to toe there. So that's one that I'd potentially be looking at using as well, maybe in a melee build. So hope this video was useful. Hope it made sense to me personally. I was just saying the word momentum lots of times over and over for about 5-6 minutes there. But if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments, and fingers crossed Glimfall is actually registered on YouTube and he can go in and answer any questions you guys have got. But thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you all again soon.